Hello everyone, this is Beastly Eel, and in today's video we're going to be doing a Marvel character spotlight. Now this particular Marvel character, his real name is Dane Whitman. Now, Dane Whitman is actually the Black Knight. So the Black Knight is a character that's been in Marvel for a while, since 1967. Really more of a, I guess you would say, medieval character, even though he's been kind of added to the mainstream, even to this day. So the reason why we're doing a character spotlight on him is because he gets introduced in the Eternals. Now, in the Eternals, he's dating one of the Eternals, and um, he obviously is the Black Knight, and he kind of helps out every once in a while, and that's where he kind of really becomes the superhero that we all know, as best he can, obviously. So I'm going to talk about him in the comics and where we might actually see him else in the cinematic universe in the future. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. But for now, let's dive right into what Dane Whitman of Earth 616 has done. So, as a young man, he was in love with this woman named Asmia Corpora, who developed cancer, and he planned to do this whole thing, apparently like a proposal for her before she died, and he basically didn't do it. She refused treatment, and she died a year later, and she gave birth to one of his baby girl that she kept a secret from him. Well, anyway, later on, he inherited his uncle's castle. He was unaware that the fact that his uncle was the villainous Black Knight until he started going through everything and noticed all the notes and inventions that were all around the place. Now, eventually he came upon the Ebony Blade. Now, the Ebony Blade is where the Black Knight gets his power. Now, passing the test, um, it explained the history of his blade and its curse. When he took the weapon, he decided to become a hero. Now, the first thing he did as a hero, which is by far the weirdest thing ever, is he joined the Masters of Evil, which is an evil group of supervillains, just as his uncle did. But his idea was to go in there on purpose to infiltrate them and defeat them from the inside. He did this to aid the Avengers, but they still didn't trust him until he helped them fight against Kang the Conqueror, which is another reason why I think he was introduced in the Eternals, because Kang is here. I digress. So later on, he fought alongside the Defenders against the Enchantress, and he was petrified. Petrified is where your body kind of gets frozen. Sometimes it could be turned into stone, but other times it could just be, just frozen in place. So everyone tried to help him out and bring him back, but it turned out his soul was away from his body, and his soul was sent to the 12th century, where he possessed one of his ancestors. Now, they were trying to help him out, and he refused to come back until he took care of what he needed to do. So they began to fight. Now, he's been back and forth a few times in this during this time. So he kind of goes back and forth between the 12th century to help out in certain things. Later on, when he finally his old body, I should say, or his 12th century body, thank you, was destroyed during battle. Um, his spirit returned to his original body, and because of that, his body was brought back to becoming flesh and blood again. He's teamed up with the Avengers, and because of his intelligence, he's helped out when Iron Man and Hank Pym were not around, so he was able to be the mind in these situations. And because of this, he's helped out with the Avengers in multiple cases. He's gone after the Masters of Evil. He's fought countless people. Um, he he didn't become a true member of the Avengers until much, much later on. They had to go through a lot of fights and a lot of just destruction in general. Um, he was basically a substitute for a long time. The other thing the Black Knight has been doing is he jumps around from universe to universe. So like there was one where he ended up in the Ultraverse and teams up with the local heroes called the Ultra Force. And during this time, supposedly this reality shredding event known as Black September, the Avengers and the Ultra Force joined forces against Loki and had to use the Sentinel powers of the Infinity Gems to fix everything. Now, at the end of this, Dane remained in the Ultraverse as the new leader of the Ultraverse, as the new leader of the Ultra Force. After leading them for several months, he finally had the opportunity to come back home, and he decided to do so. Um, he has definitely done a lot of weird stuff. He's also teamed up with the Heroes for Hire. He um, he was actually given a new weapon from the Lady of the Lake, um, a new sword. Excalibur and the Avengers. He briefly joined the Excalibur team to help basically save the world, as always, basically. He's had to track down Juggernaut in Korea and returning him to the team. And then he went, because he loses his sword every once in a while, he had to go and actually search for his sword again. Um, the Ebony Blade was starting to cause um, a lot of problems with him. The more he was using it, the slowly he started to become insane because of it. Um, he beat a guy so bad that was just robbing a bank that he cost the guy his eye and leaving him in a coma. He definitely realized that the sword might be the reason for his issues, so he tried to get rid of it. Um, he's killed several people, and his sword continues to get stronger as time goes on. The more he's using it, the more powerful it becomes, and the more he starts to go a little cuckoo. One of the bigger things that he's done has been the Phoenix Force returned to Earth, and it was staging a contest to determine who was the next host. And the Black Knight was one of the many individuals summoned to the White Hot Room for it. The Phoenix empowered all the champions and had them fight each other in trials of combat. And during this time, he called himself the Phoenix Knight. And when he was pitted against the Red Widow, he lost and was defeated. And because of that, his Phoenix powers were taken away from him. He had to fight the symbiotes when they attacked Earth, and he was given a new sword called the Sword of Fu Jing, which he used to help defeat the symbiotes. And during this time, he found out that the Ebony Blade was not a curse. It brought out the evil in one's heart, and because of that, because of all that, he realized that it wasn't him. It was him all along, and he had to figure out how to deal with that. So instead, what he used is many different types of weapons to make sure he didn't use it. Um, and there were several instances where he tried to break up the sword and put into many weapons to help diffuse the power of the ebony blade so it wouldn't cause as much damage to him as he's quite seen. Basically, making him less crazy, I guess is the best way to put it. That being said, that does not mean everything's all hunky dory. Well, that's basically his story in the comic books, for the most part. He, let's talk about his abilities. So he's a gifted scientist. He's proficient in advanced sciences and technologies, including genetic and mechanical engineering, and he continues to take things from a scientific perspective, even though he has such a big tie to the world of magic. He's an expert swordsman. He has magic immunity. Apparently, no magic can affect him, supposedly, but I'm not quite sure. Oh, I'm sorry. The sword that he uses is immune to magical powers, granting him an immunity to magic only if the sword is with him. Duh. That makes more sense. He's a skilled martial artist, which is not that surprising, and he's held his own against people like Captain America and Wolverine. He's an expert horseman. He can ride a horse without a problem. He has excellent magical knowledge, and he's familiar with it. He's a skilled tactician and strategist, which helped him be a great leader as the Avengers at one point, and also Ultra Force. And he possesses the strength of a normal human male who engages in intense, regular exercise. I like how they put that in there to be very specific. The equipment he possesses a necklace that contains his armor, sword, and shield, and reappear whenever he says Avalon. He has the Razor of Truth, which is a magical flame inside of his castle. He has the Ebony Blade. He also has the Power Lance as a personal augmentation on his body. He formerly used the Photon Sword and Sword of Light and Shield of Night for a time, and he carried Excalibur after the temporary destruction of his Ebony Blade. He normally travels with his horse. Now, Marvel, as always, does their power and abilities based on a 7-point scale. So his intelligence is ranked 4, which is considered gifted. His strength is a 2, which is considered normal. His speed is also a 2, which is considered normal. His durability is at level 5, which makes him supposedly bulletproof. I'm assuming with all his armor and everything else, not just him by himself. His energy projection is about medium range, and his fighting style is a 5, which means he's a master of one single form of combat, which I would imagine is hand to hand slash sword, but I think it's just not several forms of combat, is why he's not ranked higher on this. Overall, I think the reason why the Black Knight has been added into the Eternals was because he's going to be probably playing a decent role inside the multiverse saga. And since he seems to be bouncing around from universe to universe and timeline to timeline, it would make sense for him to be a part of this part of the saga. So I'll be interested to see what they do. I've not seen the Eternals yet, but I do know that he's in it. Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much everything I have on the Black Knight. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. You know, is there a character you want me to talk about? Please let me know. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Oh, stupid me. As always, if you like the content you see, please like and subscribe below. And now, I'm signing off. Have a good night.